Well, hot dog, check that out. This welder says it can replace plasma cutters, grinders, and an AC/DC welder for aluminum, all while being easier and 5 times faster. Oh, we've got to check this out. This video, I really want to focus on those claims of it being easier and really faster than my TIG welder. Diving right in, I have it hooked up, we're ready to go, and nothing. Yeah, still nothing. Seriously, I've checked both the e-stops and the 2 on and off switches. Oh wait, looks like there's one last power switch. These are some of my very first welds, and yes, some of them did not turn out the best. But some of those welds are freaking amazing. So was it actually easier? Well, yes and no. So the overall setup, which I will dive into a little more in a second, was about the same as a traditional welder. But once you get the laser dialed in, the settings right, you know, you figure out how many on-off switches are actually on this machine, why are there 2 e-stops and 2 on-off switches with an on-off button? Little overkill, wouldn't you say? Actually laying down the bead, yes, it was easier than a traditional MIG or TIG machine. Before we dive into that comparison with the TIG and the laser, let's dive into actually what we have. So first of all, laser welders, they're not new. They've been in the market ever since the 70s, but it has only been recently since these little smaller compact DIY friendly machines have entered the market. And even then, really, you've only got the X tool or the Laser Lab with the X1 Pro. So, I mean, heck, we're only missing one more X and we could have had a triple X video. Sorry to disappoint, you get the X1 Pro. This is a 700 watt laser, which brings me into my first point. I've got the welding background, and all the welders you get, they are rated off of the amperage, not wattage. So this is taking some testing to actually figure out what settings or wattage to go off of, or you could just take the easy route and use the pre-settings, and which actually does a pretty good job. Should have started out with those. And it claims it can do right up to about 3/16, which is pretty awesome considering you can run this off of a regular 120 volt plug. Now keep in mind this is a 20 amp plug, so you will need that 20 amp receptacle to get going. Along with the laser, you do get a wire feed system, which is actually pretty nice because first of all, it's got extra long leads, you got room for a big 10-pound spool, and it's a dual drive roller system. The drawback, or what I would say is maybe something they could change, is some of the rollers are freaking huge. 1.2 millimeter wire size, first of all, you're never going to be able to get it or need that thick of wire with the output of this machine. You're pretty much maxed out at probably 030 or about 8 millimeter wire. So why they have the bigger rollers? Probably for bigger machines they've got. So these you're never going to use. It's loaded up with a bunch of welding tips with the little cutout for your wire feed to go on. Now they do also give you one wire cutting tip, but here's the thing. They don't say on which one is the actual cleaning tip. And so I just used the one with the biggest or roundest head, and that worked out. But that goes back to the point of why do you need this many tips for wire feed? I think you could probably get away with just 1 or 2, but they threw them in there for you. Have I already mentioned the e-stops? The back has all the connections and they make it really easy. There's really only one way to hook up everything. The only odd part is this is a 6 millimeter tube, and that is for your gas or for the compressed air when you're cutting. I like that it's actually a tubing connection, but it's 6 millimeter. So here's a little tip for you. If you don't have any 6 millimeter lying around, 1/4 inch is slightly different, but it fits right in place for you. Now I want to dive into that test where they claim it's 5 times faster than TIG welding. So over on my right, I've just got a traditional TIG setup. I've got a 4-inch coupon doing a lap joint, and then on the left, I've got the laser setup for that same 4-inch. Would I have liked the 6-inch? Sure, but this is all I got. Okay, here's my 2 tests. Was it 5 times faster? No. And I actually haven't gone back and compared the speed, so I I honestly don't know. I'm just assuming it didn't feel like it was 5 times faster. I'll put up here on the screen how fast it really was. But what it does have going for it is that weld looks so much better than my TIG weld. Now keep in mind, I'm not a professional TIG welder, but maybe that's a better comparison. A brand new newbie laser welder versus an okay TIG welder. Bumped it up to this 1/8" plate doing a fillet weld, and I am blown away at how good this weld looks. Way better than any TIG welder I could ever imagine doing. But it is small, like really small. Now there are a ton of claims out there saying that the laser welds are way too small and won't hold, and then, well, there's a ton of other videos out there showing they do. And numerous times I welded the coupon to my table. So do you get enough power and penetration? Yes. But can you get some crappy welds out of it that won't hold? Well, sure, you bet. So as with any claim, it really is dependent on the person, their skill level, how long they've been doing it. Can you get good welds with each process? Most definitely. Welders are extremely dangerous. You got to think about what is going beyond. So for example, if you are welding or cutting, what is behind it and can it take that heat? For example, I've got a whole bunch of marks on my cement floor from that laser going through. And then also you got to protect your eyes. So they do give you some little goggles, which are not the same as a welding helmet. So this is a traditional auto darkening helmet where all it does is darken the lens, versus laser glasses. These actually block out certain wavelengths of the laser light. Maybe that's why they have so many e-stops. Let's switch over to cutting. Super easy to switch over. You've only got one cutting tip, so this is all you got and it works. Now they suggest you use either nitrogen or argon, but that is mostly for welding. Now it is a compressed gas, so you can use it for cutting, but you gotta have a lot higher pressure and you don't wanna waste that expensive gas. So just make sure you've got some dry, clean, compressed gas, and it works great. Here's a suggestion on what they can do better. So they've got this little just connectivity type connection. This is not like a full earth clamp. You don't have that full electricity going through this like you would a traditional machine. So that's great, you just clamp that onto your workpiece when you're welding. But when you're cutting or cleaning, you have to still make the connection, or the machine still needs to sense that. And so everybody just puts this up here on the actual gun itself. I think that's really hokey and could definitely be changed. Just maybe make that, exempt when you're in the cutting or cleaning mode. And yes, I did spend about 15 minutes thinking what the heck was wrong with this machine before I realized that had to be on there. So it claims it can cut from 0.5 millimeter up to 3 millimeter, which is about 1/8 inch, and it can. And it's nice and clean. So unlike the welding, they don't have any claims that it cuts like 5 times faster than a plasma cutter. But what it does have going for it is that actual thickness of the cut. Super thin, which is very nice. I mean, you can make jigsaw puzzles out of this thing. Onto the cleaning. Now, I was full on thinking this was just kind of a throw-in process and it was just, I wasn't gonna use it that much, and that was until I used it. It's freaking amazing. I can't believe how fun it is to actually just go through and just clean up metal like that. Now sure, you can get the same results with flapper disc and that kind of stuff, but heck, you're using a freaking laser beam to clean metal. Now one huge advantage I can see to this is non-flat surfaces like bolts and nuts and just those odd-shaped materials where it will easily go into those crevices and clean it. Amazing! So does that mean I'm getting rid of my AC/DC welder? No, but I'm definitely going to be putting this right up next to it, and it will be a great companion for a bunch of those odd jobs. I'm out!